Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Fatina Dira binti Rozani. My matrix number is 2021360091. These names are the rest of my group members. We are going to present chapter 7, which is economic integration. In this chapter, we will look at economic integration in general and custom unions. The concept of economic integration refers to the commercial policy of discriminatively reducing or eliminating trade barriers only among the nation joining together. So, if we join in this nation, we do economic integration with that nation. We will try to remove the trade barrier and eliminating trade barriers. There is a level of economic integration which is a preferential trade arrangement to free trade area, custom unions, common markets, and also economic unions. Trade barriers between participating countries provide lower barriers than those between non-member countries under preferential trade agreements. But with other nations, the trade distribution will be the same. We just are lowering the barriers with only participating nation. This is the loosest form of economic integration. Okay, the best example of a preferential trade agreement is the British Commonwealth Preference Scheme that established in 1932 by United Kingdom with members of and some former members of the British Empire. Then we move to free trade area. If preferential trade area is lowering the barriers for free trade area, they removing all the trade barriers among members, but each country keep its own trade barriers with non-members. This agreement include cooperation between at least two countries in order to lower trade barriers, import quotas and tariff, as well as increase cross-border trade of goods and services. The best examples are the European Free Trade Association, EFTA, formed in 1960 by the United Kingdom, Austria, Denmark, Norway, Portugal, Sweden, and Switzerland. And then we have North American Free Trade Area Trade Agreement, NAFTA, formed by the United States, Canada, and Mexico in 1993. The last one is Southern Common Market, Mercosur, formed by Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, and also Uruguay in year 1991. Number 3 is custom unions. Custom unions allow no tariff or other barriers on trade among members. It's same with FTA, which is no barriers. In addition, it harmonizes trade policy that exists, such as setting of common tariff rates towards the rest of the world. Okay, the most famous example is the European Union, EU, or European Common Market, formed in 1957 by West Germany, France, Italy, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg. Another example is Zoll variant, established in 1834 by a large number of sovereign German states, which proved significant in Bismarck unification of Germany in 1870. And then they will do duty-free zones or free economic zones, the same concept used to analyze custom unions. Okay, for example, we can look at Pulau Langkawi, attract foreign investment by allowing raw materials and intermediate product duty-free. Okay, this is custom unions adding from FTA. It harmonized trade policies. And then common market. What is common market? A common market goes beyond a custom union by also allowing free movement of labor and capital among members nations. For example, EU achieved the status of a common market at the beginning of 1993, and also some issue from Greece and Brazil. Last but not least, the most advanced economic integration is economic union. Economic union do until common market, so they will not allow any barrier among members, and then it will harmonize trade policies. It allows free movement of labor and capital among member nations. They goes further by harmonizing or even unifying the monetary and fiscal policies of member states. So, members of economic union will have the same monetary and fiscal policies. For example, they are trying to do expansionary monetary policies. So, all the country that joining together will do the same. So, it is like a different country become one. An example for economic union is Benelux, which is the economic union of Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg, formed after World War II and now part of the EU. An example of a complete economic and monetary union is United States.
Assalamualaikum to everyone. So now my turn, I will explain what is trade creation and what is trade diversion. Okay, what is trade creation? Trade creation occurs when some domestic production in a nation that is a member of custom union is replaced by lower cost imports from another member nation. Assuming that all economic resources are fully employed before and after formation of the custom union. This increases the welfare of member nation because it leads to greater specialization in production based on cooperative advantage. A trade creating custom union also increases the welfare of non-members because some of the increase in its real income due to its greater specialization in production spills over into increased import from the rest of the world. The effect of a trade creating custom union are illustrated in the figure above. In the diagram, DX and SX are nation 2's domestic demand and supply curve of commodity X. Suppose that the free trade price of commodity X is $1 in nation 1 and 1.50 in nation 3, and nation 2 is assumed to be too small to affect these prices. Before joining the custom union, nation 2 initially imposed a non-discriminatory tariff of 100% on all imports of commodity X. Then, nation 2 will import commodity X from nation 1 at $2. At $2, nation 2 consumes 50X with 20X produced domestically, and then import 30X from nation 1. Nation 2 also collects $30 in tariff revenues. In the figure, S1 is nation 1's perfectly elastic supply curve of commodity X to nation 2 under free trade, and S1 plus T is the tariff inclusive supply curve. Nation 2 does not import commodity X from nation 3 because the tariff inclusive price of commodity X import from nation 3 will be $3. If nation 2 forms a custom union with nation 1 which is remove tariff on its import from nation 1 only, Px equal to $1 in nation 2. At this price, nation 2 consumes 70x of commodity with 10x produced domestically, and 70 minus 10 is 60, so nation 2 will import 60x from nation 1. In this case, nation 2 collect no tariff revenue. The benefit to consumer in nation 2 resulting from the formation of the custom union is equal to area A, B, C, and D, which is the increase in the consumer surplus. However, only part of this represents a net gain for nation 2 as a whole. Area A represents a reduction in rent or producer surplus, while area C represents the loss of tariff revenue. This leaves the sum of the area of shaded triangle, area B, and area D, or $15 as the net static welfare gain for nation 2. Next is trade diversion. It occurs when lower cost import from outside the custom union are replaced by higher cost import from a union member. This results because of the preferential trade treatment given to member nations. Trade diversion by itself reduces welfare because it shifts production from more efficient producer outside the custom union to less efficient producer inside the Union. Thus, trade diversion worsens the international allocation of resources and shift production away from comparative advantage. A trade diverting custom union results in both trade creation and trade diversion, and therefore can increase or reduce the welfare of union members, depending on the relative strength of these two opposing forces. The welfare of non-members can be expected to decline because their economic resources can only be utilized less efficiently than before trade was diverted away from them. Thus, while a trade-creating custom union leads only to trade creation and unequivocally increase the welfare of members and non-members, a trade-diverting custom union leads to both trade creation and trade diversion, and also can increase or reduce the welfare of members and will reduce the welfare of the rest of the world. From the figure, TX and SX are Nation 2 domestic demand and supply curve of commodity X, while S1 are free trade perfectly elastic supply curve of Nation 1, and S3 and S3 are free trade perfectly elastic supply curve of Nation 3 respectively. Before joining custom union, with a non-discriminatory 100% tariff on imports of commodity X, Nation 2 imports commodity X from Nation 1 at $2, along with S1 plus T as in the diagram. As seen earlier, PX equal to $2, Nation 2 consume 50X with 20X produced domestically and import 30X from Nation 1. Nation 2 also collect $30 in tariff revenue. After joining custom union, Nation 2 now form a custom union with Nation 3 only, which is remove tariff on imports from Nation 3 only. Nation 2 find it cheaper to import commodity X from Nation 3 at $1.50. At $1.50, Nation 2 consume 60X with 50X produced domestically and 45X import from Nation 3. In this case, Nation 2 collects no tariff revenue. There are effects after joining custom union. The imports of commodity X into Nation 2 have now been diverted from the more efficient producer in Nation 1 to less efficient producer in Nation 3 because the tariff discriminates against import from Nation 1, which is outside the nation. Note that Nation 2 imports of commodity X were 30X before formation of the custom union and 45X afterward. Thus, the trade diverting custom union also leads to some trade creation. The static welfare effect on Nation 2 resulting from the formation of a custom union with Nation 3 can be measured from the shaded area shown in the figure. And lastly, for the static welfare effect, the sum of the area of shaded triangle in area E and area F is $3.75 is the welfare gain resulting from pure trade creation, while the area of shaded rectangle in area G is $15 is the welfare loss from diverting the initial 30x of imports from lower cost Nation 1 to higher cost Nation 3. Other than that, the gain in consumer surplus of area H, E, I, and F resulting from the formation of the custom union. Area H represents a transfer from producer to consumer surplus in Nation 2. Moreover, area J, M, and H, which is $30 tariff revenue collected by Nation 2 before the formation of the custom union with Nation 3, while area I is transferred to consumer in Nation 2 in the form of the lower price of commodity X after the formation of the custom union. This leaves only shaded triangle area E and area F as the net gain to Nation 2 and shaded rectangle area G as the still unaccounted for loss of tariff revenue. Since the area of the shaded rectangle measuring the welfare loss from trade diversion proper exceed the sum of the areas of the shaded triangle, which is $3.75, measuring the welfare gain from pure trade creation. This trade diverting custom union leads to a net welfare loss of $11.25 for Nation 2.
Hi and Assalamualaikum. I am the third presenter Fatina Oswani binti Sarudin. So I will continue with the theory of the second best. In our life, we normally go for the second alternative when the first alternative is not achieved. However, a different perception according to the theory of the second best that was formalized by Richard Lipsey and Calvin Lancaster in 1956. The theory is based on Lipsey and Lancaster thoughts, such as what happens to the remaining optimal condition when one cannot be satisfied, when a criteria needed in obtaining an optimal economic situation and maximizing welfare is not reached, making a strong effort to meet those conditions that can be met may not be the second best alternative, and may actually cause more harm than good. According to the second best theory, if one of the optimum solution condition is not met, all of the others will most likely change as well, which involve updating other variables from their optimal values, resulting in it being worse. Economics is not like a puzzle where one piece is damaged while the others will stay unchanged. In economics, all of the other components may become affected because they move as a whole. So that is why when there is a serious market failure in one sector of a country's economy, trying to solve them may instead damage the nation's overall efficiency. Instead of attempting to correct any of them, it will be preferable to refuse both imperfections market. The second best solution could be worse than a whole new one created by government intervention. If we are still insisting on meeting the other condition, the welfare of a society will be decreased. Okay, let me give an example of the theory of second best looks like. So let's consider Henry Coles as an imaginary mining firm which has a monopoly in coal mining, but is at the same time known as a huge contributor to the pollution. The toxic waste from the mine is thrown into rivers, affecting its worker to inhale poisonous dust that cause them to sick. Henry Coles can save the workers by lowering its output. On the other hand, the government can ask them to break their monopoly position. As a result of the dissolution of the monopoly, there will be an increase in competition, and by means, overall coal output will likely increase, and Henry Coles can limit production. Unfortunately, production rise due to other corporation will also increase the pollution. As we can see from this example, it is unclear whether this does fix the overall problem or not. It seems that this will have the coal market, which offers a better price, more trade, and so on. But the higher pollution that worsen may overshadow the benefits that can gain from the monopoly issue. It shows that when two or more markets are not perfectly competitive, the theory of the second best implies that attempting to resolve just one of the errors may actually push the economy further away from parity efficiency. Next, we will move to the conditions of the custom unions will increase welfare. The first one is the greater trade creation rather than trade diversion, meaning that they has a better opportunity for the custom union as they only focus on trade among members. Secondly, the lower the customs union's trade barrier with the rest of the world are the better. This reduces the likelihood of a costly trade diversion as a result of the customs union's creation. Next, the larger the custom union and the higher the number of countries that join custom union, giving benefits as low-cost producer will join the union under these conditions. Other than that, the economies of members countries are becoming more competitive rather than complementary. With the development of the custom union, there are a greater opportunity for specialization in manufacturing and trade creation. Lastly, the nearer the countries of custom union will reduce the transportation costs and will be less of a barrier to trade creation between members of the custom union. The static and dynamic effects of the formation of a custom union are the second best solution that leads to increased welfare. So let's take a look. Static welfare effects of the custom union are, firstly, for trade between member nations, the administration saves money by eliminating custom official, border guards, and other such positions. As a result, whether the custom union creates or diverts trade, this gain arises. Secondly, a trade diverting is expected to rise in the collective terms in trade in the custom union. This is because trade diverting customs lead to the reduction of its demand for imports and its supply of export across the world. Lastly, bargaining power increase, which can produce significant gains to custom union members. Several countries act as a single unit in international trade negotiation. It is more powerful than a single country. For example, negotiating with the EU is clearly quite different from negotiating with one member of the EU. However, the dynamic effects are assumed to be much better than static effects. The first one is increased competition. Before the formation of the custom union, the producers tend to become slow and inefficient. But with the custom union, they will become more functional and competitive inside the union, or else they need to stay out of the business. As consequence, all firms who were previously functioning at or below will make a huge effort to increase production in order to meet demand from a growing market while lowering costs. The competition also boosts work performance and encourages firms to develop a new technology. Secondly, economy of scale. Economics of scale are likely to result from the expanded market. It should be emphasized that even a small country that is not a member of any customs union can face the limited size of its domestic market and gain production economies of scale by exporting to other countries around the world. For example, the establishment of European Community achieved economies of scale due to the limitation in the variety of differentiate products, increase in the production run, the allocation of skilled labor, and others. After that is technological advance. Many good changes occurs as a result of the establishment of the custom union, making businesses and industry to have a strong desire to imitate, improve, and promote improvements. There is a great motivation to conduct research in order to improve production method and quality of products. Lastly, movement of productive factors. By following the establishment of a custom unions, there is a free movement of labor, money, and a company throughout the common market's whole region. This enables the most efficient use of resources and improvement in productivity levels and significant increase in economy. So that's all for me.
Now, let's take a look on the objective and history of the EU, NAFTA, and the AFTA. The EU, or European Union, was signed in March 1957 by the West Germany, France, Italy, Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg, and came into being on January 1, 1958. The common external tariff was set at the average of the 1957 tariff of the Six Nations, and free trade in industrial goods within the EU and a common price for agricultural products were achieved in 1968. Meanwhile, the restrictions of the free movement of labor and capital were reduced by 1970. The membership of the EU had increased to 15 after the United Kingdom. Denmark and Ireland has joined in 1973, Greece in 1981, Spain and Portugal in 1986, and Australia, Finland, and Sweden in 1995. On 1 January 1993, the EU had removed all the remaining restrictions on the free flow of goods, services, and resources, including the labor among its members, thus becoming a single unified market. And by 2008, the EU had expanded to 27 members and represented the largest trading bloc in the world. In addition, the formations of the EU significantly expanded trade in industrial goods with the non-member. This was due to the very rapid growth of the EU, which had increased its demands for import of industrial products, and from outside the Union also in the reductions to the very low level of the average tariff on imports of the industrial products. Earlier, in 1971, the EU had granted generalized tariff preferences to imports of manufactured and semi-manufactured products from the developing nations. But textile, steel, consumer electronic, shoes, and many other products of the great importance to developing the nation were excluded. In 1986, the EU amended the Treaty of Rome with the Single European Act, which provided for the removal of all remaining barriers to the free flow of goods, services, and resources among its members. This leads to the pouring in the foreign direct investment into the EU out of fears because the increase in the protectionism against the outsider. Now, move to the other highlight in the operations of the EU. Firstly, member nations have adopted a common value-added tax system under which a tax is levied on the value added to the product at each stage of the production and passed on to the consumer. Secondly, the Commission that is led by the EU headquarters will propose the law, monitor the compliance with the treaties, and administer common policy. Moreover, the Council of the Ministers will make the final decisions based on the recommendations from the Commission. And lastly, the EU had to plan a full monetary union, including the harmonization between the monetary and fiscal policy. In September 1993, the United States, Canada, and Mexico signed the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA, which took effect on January 1, 1994. This agreement is to eventually lead to the free trades in goods and services over the entire North American area. NAFTA will also face out many other barriers to trade and reduce the barriers to cross-border investment among the three countries. The main impact of the NAFTA was between the trade in between the United States and Mexico. The implementation of NAFTA benefits the United States by increasing the competitions in product and resources market, as well as by lowering the prices of many commodities to U.S. consumers. Because the U.S. economy is more than 50 times larger than Mexico's economy, the U.S. gains from NAFTA as if a proportion of its GDP were much smaller than the Mexico. Furthermore, the wages more than 6 times higher in the United States than in the Mexico. NAFTA was expected to lead to a loss of unskilled jobs, but an increase of skilled jobs, for an overall net increase in employment in the United States between 19,000 and 116,000. In addition, the free trade access to Mexico allows the U.S. industry to import labor-intensive components from the Mexico and keep other operations in the United States rather than possibly losing all jobs in the industry to low-wage countries. The implementation of NAFTA also benefited to the Mexico by leading it to the greater export-led growth resulting from increased access to the huge U.S. market and by increasing inward foreign direct investment (FDI). Now is AFTA, ASEAN Free Trade Area was also created as a response to other emerging regional groupings such as the North American Free Trade Area, NAFTA, and the expansions of the European Union, EU. It was also to leverage on the huge potential and complementarities that exist in the region to strengthen and deepen the intra-ASEAN industrial linkage, including creating strong and competitive within a small and medium enterprises. The liberalizations of trade in the region through the CEPTE, Common Effective Preferential Tariff, in the eliminations of the both intra-regional tariff and the non-tariff barrier had contributed to making the ASEAN manufacturing sector more efficient and competitive in the global market. As a result, a consumer are able to source goods from more efficient producers in the ASEAN, thus creating a robust intra-ASEAN trade. And based on the commitments under the AFTA, the Cambodia, Myanmar, and the Vietnam had eliminated all the duties on all products in 2015 with a flexibility of 7% of tariff that lines up to 2018. With the reductions and the eliminations of the import duties, the producer and the manufacturer can afford to buy a raw material at cheaper prices and better quality from the ASEAN country. This would lead to the reduction in cost of productions due to the elimination and reductions in tariff. As a result, prices of the product will be more cheaper and can compete not only within the ASEAN member, but within other countries as well.